Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for watching this session. Let's continue modernization topic. And in this talk, you will hear how you can port your existing .NET application to the latest .NET. Well, first, let's clarify what your application originally can target. As you probably know, there are a few different .NET platforms. There is .NET Framework that has existed for many years. Then not so long ago, we created .NET Core, cross-platform, open source .NET platform. We also have Mono, that Xamarin applications target. And a few years ago, we've heard the feedback that there are too many .NET platforms. It's very confusing for our users to make a decision what to target. And we decided to take the best parts from each platform and create just one .NET platform going forward. We released it 2 years ago. We called it .NET and we gave it a version number 5 to emphasize that that's the latest .NET. It's 5 is bigger than .NET Framework 4.8 and .NET Core 3.1. So .NET 5 was the platform going forward, and that's the platform that would iterate through years and receive all the upcoming updates. Another change we made, we switched to scheduled releases. So another feedback from you guys, it's very hard to plan our updates when you don't know when Microsoft is going to release a new version of .NET. So now we're sticking to a fixed schedule. Every November, we are releasing a new version, and every even numbered version is long-term support. LTS. So we're going to support it for 3 years. And every odd number is standard term support, but it's not less reliable or higher. It's same quality, same reliability, it's just different support policy. So just yesterday, we released .NET 7, and that's the latest .NET. We are going to talk about how you can upgrade to that version. So why would you want to upgrade? Besides the fact that that's the platform going forward, meaning that all changes will go to .NET 7, 8, and so on. We're not making any changes to .NET Framework or .NET Core. So if you want to stay on the latest tech, I highly encourage you to upgrade. But besides that, we've made so many changes and improvements. And first that I want to mention is performance improvement. Every year, with every version of .NET, we improved our performance, and our engineer, Steven Todd, published a blog post with every new version of .NET from .NET Core to .NET 7. His latest blog post has 255 pages, where he talks about over 1,000 PRs related to performance improvement. And the highest win would be when you're upgrading from .NET Framework to .NET 6 or .NET 7, you will see the huge jump in perf. So by simply retargeting your app from .NET Framework to .NET 6 or 7, you make your application run much, much faster. Besides performance, we also make improvements in language. So .NET 7 comes with C#11 and allows you to write less code and get more done. Also, we're constantly adding new modern controls. We are making improvements in accessibility. Accessibility is extremely important. These days, it's a new standard for modern software. And we're making sure that not only our tools are accessible, but also we're helping you build accessible products for your end users. And there are a variety of deployment options. Now you can no longer worry about the setup of your end users' machines. You can package .NET Framework together with your application. You can create a single exe file and just ship it to your users without thinking that they need to install some .NET. And of course, for each area, such as ASP.NET, WinForms, WPF, Xamarin, Entity Framework, we are making improvements specific to those areas. So this talk won't be enough time to cover all the improvements we've made. Just check it out, see for yourself. And there is a path for upgrading for any applications. No matter what kind of app you're building, you can upgrade to the latest tech. If you're building WinForms or WPF, we highly recommend upgrading to .NET 7. And there is a very easy way how you can do it. We have a tool called Upgrade Assistant. It's available on that link. And just go ahead, download the tool. That's a CLI command tool. It's gonna guide you through the migration process. It will let you choose if you wanna upgrade to long-term support, .NET 6, or standard term support, .NET 7. And WinForms WPF have the highest rate of success of just like running this tool and upgrading to the latest .NET. Check it out. If you're building UWP applications, there is a path for you too, and it's called WinUI. The latest version, WinUI 3, is available. It's a successor and much more improved offering for the UWP applications. And we have a few talks specific for WinUI, so check it out if you have not yet. If you're building Xamarin Forms, we have a new offering, .NET MAUI, and we also have numerous talks on .NET MAUI, one specifically about how to migrate from Xamarin Forms to .NET MAUI. So check that out. If you're building WCF, some time ago it was not easy to port to the latest .NET, but now we have a solution. We have core WCF that allows you to keep using the APIs that you used in the past. And we have a separate talk covering how you can migrate to .NET 7 with core WCF. For ASP.NET, we're gonna focus on this migration in this session, and Mike and Taylor will tell you how to do that. And we also have another session on that dives in more details. And if you're building libraries, you can leave them targeting .NET Standard 2.0 if you need those libraries to be used in both .NET Framework and later .NET applications. But if your libraries are consumed only from .NET 6, 7, and up, retarget it to .NET 7 as well. So with that, let me put some information regarding other sessions focused on migration. And feel free to ask us questions. If you're in your migration journey, you're getting stuck, you don't know how to move forward, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or email, or reach out to any team members. We're happy to help you, provide you needed information, look at your case, and you, in return, are helping us to make our tooling better. So based on your feedback, we can build a better experience for you. All right, with that, let me give the virtual stage to Mike, who is gonna talk more about the migration process. Mike.
Thank you, Olia. Yeah, so like Olia said, whether you're using WPF or WinForms or ASP.NET, there is a path forward to .NET 7, and I want to talk about what that looks like. Now, the details will depend quite a bit on the app model that you're using, because the experience of upgrading a WinForms app is very different from the experience of upgrading an ASP.NET app or a WCF app. But the overall workflow is the same, and that's what I'm going to talk about on this slide. When you think about upgrading to .NET 7, you want to start with some analysis so that you understand what you're getting into. There are some upgrades that are very fast. You can be done in an afternoon. There are other upgrades that might take weeks or months to finish. And largely the difference between those will be the sorts of dependencies that you have. So you want to understand what dependencies you have that may not be available on .NET 7. This might be .NET APIs that aren't available, or it could be NuGet packages that you need to update the version for or find an alternative for. It could be project-to-project dependencies within your own code base, or even loose binaries. So for these, we have tools available that can help analyze whether you're likely to be able to move forward very easily, or if you're going to have to replace dependencies. The .NET Upgrade Assistant tool, which we've demoed in the past and Olia mentioned, will help you look at all of these and understand whether they're likely to work on .NET 7 or if there's changes that are going to need to be made. So after you've done that initial work of sort of analyzing your solution to understand what work you have ahead of you, to actually start the upgrade, you want to upgrade the project file, because like all versions of .NET Core, .NET 7 uses the new SDK-style project file format. So you'll want to make sure you're using that new SDK-style project and that you're using package references to your NuGet packages rather than something like packages.config. Again, We have tooling that can help with this, but there's an important decision to make at this point in the upgrade process. You have to decide whether you're going to upgrade your project in place where it is currently on disk, which can be the fastest path forward, or if you're going to have two projects side by side and gradually move code over incrementally from the original .NET Framework project to the .NET 7 one. Going that route can take a little bit longer, but allows your app to be usable during the upgrade process. And we're going to talk about this decision on the subsequent slides because it's an important one. Once you've done that, though, and you have a project that's targeting .NET 7 or .NET Standard, you need to upgrade your source code and your other project assets like your views, your config files, and so on to work with that new target framework. Now, at this point, you will have to decide whether you're going to target .NET 6, .NET 7, .NET Standard, or in some cases, maybe even stay on .NET Framework, depending on your particular scenario. But as you're making these changes, we have tooling available, again, that can help. This is where the .NET Upgrade Assistant can help if you're upgrading in place. And we're going to be showing off today some new tooling in a Visual Studio extension that enables incrementally migrating your application that can help if you're going to be in that side-by-side incremental scenario. And then finally, I don't want people to think that that's the final step, because a lot of times when people think about upgrading to .NET 7, they imagine just going in and upgrading their source code. But you also need to test these changes. There are differences between .NET Framework and .NET 7 that only show up at runtime, especially if you're going to be running cross-platform. And so it's really important that you go through and test to make sure that things work as expected after you've finished the upgrade and everything's building correctly. If you don't have a great suite of tests, getting some unit tests in place might be a really good preparatory activity as you look forward to doing this upgrade in the near future. Also, at this point, you would want to think about how you're going to be deploying, because once you've upgraded to .NET 7, you have a lot more deployment options. You can deploy your application self-contained with all of the .NET binaries needed bundled with the application. You can deploy with a framework-dependent application that uses the machine-wide installation of the .NET runtime. You could install as a single file exe, which is just a single binary that the user has to download, and many options like that. Depending on your workload and your app model, you may have the option of running cross-platform and deploying on Linux. So you'll really want to think through what deploying and running your application is going to look like after you've upgraded. Okay, so I talked about this idea that you can either upgrade in place or you can upgrade side by side, and I really want to drill into that because that's an important distinction. When we talk about upgrading in place, let's say we have this example solution. Upgrading in place means you choose one of the leaf nodes that nothing else depends on, and you change it right where it is to either target .NET Standard, if it's a library that can target .NET Standard, or if you need to not target .NET Standard, you can multi-target and have the project file target both .NET 7 and .NET Framework. After this upgrade's done, you then work your way up, and you would have maybe library 3 would be the next one you would upgrade. And then once all of the dependencies are migrated, you can migrate Web App 1. Like I said earlier, this tends to be the fastest path forward because you're not duplicating any code. You're making all of the changes right there on disk where the project lives today. For a lot of our types of apps, this is how we recommend that you upgrade. For things like Windows desktop applications, Xamarin apps, console applications, including Windows services, and for most class libraries, upgrading in place is recommended because these are often fairly straightforward upgrades that take a matter of a few days, maybe a week or two. And if you upgrade in place, you're going to get to that finish line sooner. We don't at this point recommend this for ASP.NET scenarios, though, because ASP.NET upgrades are unique in that there are so many changes between ASP.NET and ASP.NET Core. A lot of the concepts are the same. You can share your controllers, your views with small changes, but there's enough differences in those app models that it's often a lot of work to upgrade from ASP.NET to ASP.NET Core, even though, like Olia said, there are a lot of benefits to be realized once you do. Because of that, it can be difficult to upgrade in place because you'll end up with a solution that while you're upgrading isn't able to be built and deployed. But you're still going to need to presumably patch your solution, maybe add features, fix bugs, and so on. And if you have this separate feature branch for doing the upgrade, it's going to begin to diverge from that main branch. And at the end of the upgrade, you're going to have a real nightmare of a merge to do. So for web scenarios specifically, and also for very large class libraries that might have lots of distinct use cases, we're recommending that you actually upgrade side by side a little bit at a time as a way to make those upgrades more approachable. For other scenarios, though, the in-place upgrade is still recommended, and this is the approach that's supported by the .NET Upgrade Assistant tool. So if you find yourself needing to upgrade in place, go ahead out to our documentation. I've got a link here on this slide where you can learn about .NET Upgrade Assistant, and go to the GitHub page. Upgrade Assistant is an open source project that's developed in the public with the community. Would love to take contributions, whether that's issues, pull requests, whatever. And that's the path forward for these sorts of apps. Now, when we talk about upgrading incrementally, instead of just upgrading Library 5 in place, I'm going to create a new Library 5 next to it. So you're going to have two different projects, one of which targets .NET Framework, one of which targets .NET Standard or .NET 7. Now, because you have two separate projects, you don't have to start just down in the leaf nodes anymore. You could start with Web App 1, create a new .NET 7 version of it, targeting ASP.NET Core, that sits alongside the original web app. Like I mentioned on the previous slide, this is going to allow you to have two apps that can build and run, that can be deployed even before you've migrated all of the code over. Of course, as you move over parts of Web App 1 to the new .NET 7 version of that app, if they depend on Library 1 or Library 2 or Library 3, you'll have to migrate those libraries as well as they're needed. But you can sort of pick and choose the vertical slices of your application that you want to start with. As mentioned, this is what we're recommending for ASP.NET scenarios, as well as very large class libraries. And to support it, we have some new tooling that folks may not be familiar with because it's just now available in a preview state as of a few months ago. But it's a VS extension that we've developed that enables this incremental migration workflow right inside of Visual Studio through some right-click gestures and can help make this easier. We've got some blogs about this. The latest blog is linked here on this slide. You can go read that, and from that blog, it links back to the previous ones. So you can get all of the historical context. And again, you can go out to GitHub to get connected with the team. This is where you're going to find the latest documentation and where you can connect with us if you need to report issues or open pull requests. Now, one of the things you may wonder as you look at the slide is how it works to have two separate head applications, because your customers need to hit one of these, and how does it work for some of the app to be migrated, but not all of it? So in order to enable this scenario, that VS extension that I talked about actually wires the two projects together using a reverse proxy. So from the user's point of view, it's still just one solution. But on the back end, what's actually happening is we have a new ASP.NET Core app that the VS incremental migration tooling helps you create that is linked to the original ASP.NET app with a YARP reverse proxy, YARP being yet another reverse proxy. It's a proxy technology that the ASP.NET team developed. So now when a request comes in, the ASP.NET Core app is going to try to serve that request. If you've migrated over the controller and the action method that are needed to serve the request, the response goes back to the user, everything's great. If the ASP.NET Core app can't serve the request because we haven't yet migrated that endpoint, the app will transparently to the user forward the request to the original ASP.NET app, which will serve it. So in this way, you're able to have a solution with some of your endpoints running on ASP.NET Core, while others are still running on ASP.NET, but they are debugged and deployed as a single unit that can be presented to the user as this one unified solution. And then over time, as you move more and more of your endpoints from ASP.NET to ASP.NET Core, eventually you'll reach a point where all of the APIs are available there. You remove your ASP.NET app and you're completely migrated, all without having to pause your normal operations to do some sort of giant merge, because you've been able to build and deploy this app the whole time you've been working on the migration. So we do have a follow-up session that's going to be presented later. It's at 8:30 Pacific time. It's called Migrate Your Legacy ASP.NET Projects to ASP.NET Core Incrementally with YARP. It's going to do a demo and really dive way deeper into this experience. But to just give a taste of what it looks like, you can see once you have that VS extension installed, you're able to right-click on a project in the Solution Explorer and choose Migrate Project. That will walk you through some new UI in that extension. It will show you which portions of your project are already migrated, which ones still need to be migrated. It will set up that project for you, wire it up with YARP. And then from there, you can begin choosing individual controllers that you want to migrate. As you pick these controllers, the tooling will find all of their dependencies, and it will copy the controller plus any of the classes, NuGet dependencies, or other dependencies that controller is going to depend on, copy all of those over into the new project. Along the way, it will, similar to Upgrade Assistant, make a best effort to upgrade your source in your classes that are being moved, to upgrade the NuGet dependencies that are being moved, to versions that are going to work with ASP.NET Core. Now, both of these tools, the incremental migration tooling in the VS extension and .NET Upgrade Assistant, neither of them are silver bullets. They're not going to completely automate this process, so you have to expect there's going to be some amount of manual fix-up to do afterwards, but they both will automate away some of the easier changes so that you can focus on the more interesting ones. I have a link down here at the bottom where you can download the extension I've been talking about. It's also linked from the blogs and the GitHub repos I showed on a previous slide. And so I'd encourage you to go out and check it out. As you're doing these migrations, you will come across scenarios where you need to share code, whether that's in a class library or whether that's in some code that's maybe moving from ASP.NET to ASP.NET Core. That depends on System.Web. And you need to be able to use these in both head projects. In order to enable that scenario, along with this extension, we also have a new NuGet package called System.Web adapters that makes that work. And so to tell you all about the System.Web adapters and how that fits into this solution, I'm going to hand it off to Taylor Southwick to guide you through the rest of this presentation.
Thank you, Mike. As Mike mentioned, there's some runtime support that we have added in for the to help you as you migrate from ASP.NET to ASP.NET Core. And this is a set of adapters that simulate the API surface area that you are maybe used to in ASP.NET. So this is things like HTTP context, HTTP request, and other APIs similar. This package also contains a number of middleware and services that help enable this behavior. There's a number of behavior that if you migrate to ASP.NET Core, you may be expecting, but it's not there. Things like the input stream is not fully buffered, that it's not a single threaded environment. Session is not strongly typed. These adapters provide APIs to help enable some of those scenarios to help you migrate away from that behavior. One of the benefits of the adapters is that it allows you to compile all of this business logic into a .NET Standard 2.0 assembly. And this allows you to run on both ASP.NET Framework and ASP.NET Core. When running on ASP.NET Framework, it will type forward to the types in System.Web.dll. But on ASP.NET Core, it will be backed by types that are found in the ASP.NET Core space. These adapters are thin pass-through implementations, meaning that anything that you do in one will be mirrored in the other. This allows you to convert between the two to help you migrate and choose which representation may be the best for you at the moment. So at this point, we'll jump into a quick demo of what the code might look like here. So if you look at this, here's a usage that may be common in code bases that have been built up over the years. It uses HTTP context.current, it accesses session and expects a counter variable to be an integer, and then it increments it. We can then hook it up in our web application using minimal APIs and a simple syntax similar to the rest of the ASP.NET Core stack. One of the key differences is that some of the things you have to set up that you didn't on Framework, such as registering what session keys are. So if we were to run this, we can then see it being used in an ASP.NET Core app. So we run this, and we can see 0. And then as we increment it, we see a new that value being incremented. If we go over to a different session, we see that it has its own session ID and its own value. And this uses business logic that is compiled to .NET Standard and allows you to move your code slowly over to ASP.NET Core. So I'm going to pass it back to Olya to finish up and let you know what you can do from here.
Thank you, Taylor. Yes, so what you can do today, get latest .NET, .NET 7, upgrade your application using existing tooling, and check out other sessions on the migration. One coming right after ours, focused on WCF. And please give us feedback, because that's how we know how to build the best experience for you. Thank you so much. I'm handing it to Myra